second. We're allowed.
3 is my favorite because 3 is where you do it for Dale.
What was that? The first thing we do in a live recording, Dre. What was that?
Look, Cam did a Do It For Dale reference seconds before we went on the air. I had to address the situation. Okay? It's one of them things.
How dare you, Dre? Are you not doing it for Dale?
We're now team sunglasses versus team regular glasses. I've just pointed out glasses.
You might have more protection from the sun, but we have actual eyesight.
Also, hi everyone in chat. This is about the point where we start to mull over what the intro of the show is going to be like when the finally produced audio version comes out.
Yeah, like for those guys that don't know, this is basically like a little bit of a behind the scenes of what entails goes into a Motorsport 101 episode. Exactly. Normally, we spend about an hour talking about random shit before we even start recording. So we managed to cut a lot of that out already. So go us for efficiency. But this is now normally the bit where we're about to record. We normally clap like idiots to sync up the audio to make it easier for RJ to edit. King is eating a sandwich, we're like the highly professional lot that we are, and now we're going to come up with some sort of witty intro for what was the Hungarian Grand Prix, which will take up the bulk of this podcast. It's the reason why there wasn't a race review from me personally. I thought, well, we're doing it in episode 250 anyway, so I might as well do it then. But yeah, hope you guys are in the chat. Hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. I've already got many people in here saying Miguel, good to see you. Team Sunglasses. I appreciate that. We stand the shade, says Jonty's called. Jonty's here, everybody. Nice to see you.
Hello, Jonty.
Nice to see you, sir. I know he's got his own celebration because I know our friends over at the F1 Word have just hit 100,000 subscribers, so congratulations to them. I'll raise a small glass in favour of that.
Radar stream.
Get in here! Before you all inevitably jump on over and watch Chain Bear, because Chain Bear is awesome. I'm not disputing this. If you hop over from there, I do not mind.
Friend of the pod, Chain Bear.
Exactly. Man is in our Discord server now, amazingly. I still can't believe that's even a thing. Like, King earned the raise just for that one alone.
He hasn't been too active. I think we scared him away with our shit posting already.
I blame Chris Hardy for that one.
That's valid.
But also, I love that me and King are both managing the chat right now, so we don't know which reply comes from who. It's actually quite mysterious, which I think is quite funny. But hi everybody, I see you guys in there. See you, Rezi, Blue Flag Alpha. I see you in there. Motorsport family, good to see you. Well, you sure you can get a better username? Evan is here. Hello. And as I mentioned, Jonty as well. You guys are next. Road to 10K. Look, man, I'll settle for a quarter. And I did promise I would record an Ask Dre Anything video if I got to 2,500 subs. So if you want to wonder why that Griffey jersey's on the back wall, there's an incentive for you. So get at it, basically.
What's good? Are these levels good?
Didn't you already say why the Griffey jersey was on the wall already? I won't say in what video you said it, but you did say why.
Oh, God.
It's for new subscribers, King. Like... We gotta keep rehashing content. If all the baseball YouTubers can do it, why can't we?
yeah, you rehash content from a year ago, not last week.
Says who?
Sometimes you can do both. You can rehash content from all different time periods.
That's the
1 week ago, 1 year ago, 5 years ago, when this was just a university project, well before myself and Cam entered the picture.
You'll love to see it. Right, so for those guys that don't know, I've got the full set list in front of me right here. I'll give you guys listening, a quick rundown of what's going to be on episode 250. Also, chat saying the audio is a little bit low, King, is what they're saying. You might want to turn it up a little bit, possibly.
Oh my God, I just looked in the settings and I'm at -14 decibels.
We're off to a great start here, clearly. Like King, you're already...
Professionalism, 100.
So King's quieter than all of this already as it is. Now he's turned his mic down 14 decibels, because of course he does.
Danny has already offered to be like our surrogate audio, our assistant audio engineer.
Yeah.
Or the assistant to the audio engineer. We love you, Danny.
Yeah, everybody's mentioned that. Hi, Kelly, saying, hi, Dre, no crazy shirt today, I am sad. I had the zebra one ready to go, but I thought I'd cosplay as Joffrey Archer instead. You're welcome, quite frankly.
I represented my brand.
Anyway, here's the set list for episode 250. The introduction for all the newcomers and housekeeping and all that, basically getting ourselves out there to all the new viewers, all that fun stuff, because I expect some new people around. A lot of guys have subscribed in the last few weeks and whatnot, so we'll tackle some of that. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton completely dominating en route to his 8th career Hungarian win, ties the all-time record for single venue wins, or single national wins, I guess you could say. Verstappen second, and of course the very spicy, not even warm-up lap, installation lap incident, where next thing you know he's gone into a wall, and it was hilarious. Valtteri in third there. Lance Stroll putting together maybe one of the best races of his young career. Of course, more on Racing Point's investigation, more on Ferrari, and yet more messy strategic changes that had an effect on their lead driver this time, not their secondary one. Again, McLaren struggles a little bit in there, and probably the driver of the day that no one talked about, Kevin Magnussen, limping into the points despite a last-minute Haas time penalty thrown in there as well. And of course, we're going to talk about some of the bumblings that went on before the race, because for some reason this sport still can't organise a protest. Funny that. We'll talk some of the calendar.
It was completely just incompetency.
Yeah.
And it's not even really like, at this point, it's not even really so much like a protest, because it is sanctioned by the series in theory. Which,
right.
Tam, I've got to say though, John Todt, you did not make yourself look good, but we'll get in that soon.
No, and King, did you make Brennan a mod?
Yeah, we gotta have somebody, because we'll probably be on a tangent at some point.
I apologize to all of those in chat in advance.
I hold King responsible for that one. That's on his head. Anyway, we'll talk about some of the calendar expansions, because the Nurburgring, Portimao, and Imola are officially added to the Formula 1 calendar in a triple header in the month of October, but also the conflicting sad news that we will not be racing in North America this year, which, again, isn't really a shock to anyone that's been reading the news, but here we are. We'll also talk about some of the Formula 2 and Formula 3 in Hungary, as Robert Schwartzman pretty much stole everybody's hearts by fluking the best strategy and dominating the entire field. Fun times!
Also,
we'll talk about
I love how this was supposed to be just you reading what's on the set list, because we never actually did the intro to the show.
Yeah.
We're doing that afterwards!
So we're gonna have to do this again, you realize that?
We can condense it down a bit. We can condense it.
We can condense it. Put some faith in me, King. I've done like 240 of these, alright?
Yeah, I've been on more episodes than you, kid.
Shut up.
Wow.
He ain't wrong, but I'm still gonna... I hope you can see me doing this. I'm doing it as hard as I can. Right.
We can all see it. It's live.
Yeah.
King, you may also want to bump yourself up a bit if you haven't already.
Okay.
Yeah, and obviously we'll talk about some of the shall we say, the support races, obviously Formula 2 and Formula 3. And we'll probably talk a little bit about Marc Marquez's situation in Jerez, given we're recording this on Saturday night, and a lot has gone down at Jerez since episode 249, which we recorded back on Wednesday, which you'll probably see sometime late next week, hopefully. I'm going to try my best to get it out quick and speed up the process so we can catch up a little bit where we can. But with a little luck, we'll be on the runaway train before we know it, and catching up before we know it. So yeah, that's everything on that one. Hope you guys enjoy the show. we're going to get cracking in, well, right about now, actually. So, bearing that in mind, fellas, has anybody got an intro in mind?
I do not have an intro. My head is full of empty. It's been streamlined.
Oh my.
Streamlined, he says. Anyone? Don't all rush up.
No, you got this.
No.
You've been doing this for, 240 episodes, right?
I was gonna say you were you're real smug a couple minutes ago.
Are you taking the piss, King?
You can't kick me. If you kick me, the whole show goes down.
You son of a bitch.
No, that was King's actual plan behind this format. It gives him absolute power.
It was a quite ingenious master plan. Now I think about it, it's like now if I kick King, the whole layout goes to shit because it's based off.
No. Not only does the whole layout go to shit, I'm the one streaming, so there would be no call to stream.
That's a risk I'm unprepared to take.
Well, good night, everybody.
Thanks for watching. Happy 250, everybody.
Green flag in the air, and the caution comes out.
Oh my god.
Oh dear, oh dear. Let's have a look. Okay, I think I might have something. It's a bit corny, but I think I've got something. All right, so
We should have used it for last week with the Iowa races.
There was too many there was too many easy corn puns that I could have mentioned that I ended up not doing so. Also, I love the guys in the comments already suggesting their own intros. I like the ingenuity chat with the guaranteed to organise a better intro than F1 organises protests.
That's just low-hanging fruit, really.
That's almost a bit too easy, Mahiri, but I appreciate the effort. But okay, I think I've got something. Okay. Hamilton and Hungary. Truly a love-hate relationship. Welcome to the 250th episode of Motorsport 101. Live!
I'd like to hand in my resignation.
This is the point where we would put in the intro music.
Yep, pretty much. It's a jazzy intro. I can't wait for the chat to verbally completely disapprove of what I just did there, which would have been completely understandable.
Lord.
Right. What?
Oh no, nothing. Just commenting on the situation.
just a generic. Oh,
and here it comes.
Yeah. It's quite the crazy milestone. Welcome everybody to the 250th episode of Motorsport 101. I still can't quite believe we've done this many. I am your friendly neighborhood host, Mr. Andre Harrison. Thank you very much for listening and indeed watching. If you're watching this live on YouTube right now, we made this a live recording in front of the world to hear and listen and watch and all that good stuff. I'm already getting booed out of the building in the chat by the by the YouTube chat, just saying, boo, how cheesy this pun was. I'm sorry, I had nothing better available. Thanks to everyone that's tuning in, watching, and listening in. We really, really appreciate it. Let's introduce ourselves to the co-panel as usual. To my right, we have Mr. RJ O'Connell. Hello, sir.
Oh, hello, and it's fantastic to be here. A little bit about myself. I had gone through many phases. I started writing about motorsport about 5 years ago. For a couple different outlets. Thank you, Peter Allen of Formula Scout. Thank you, Bram of Race Department. One thing led to another, led to me being a guest on the podcast, leading to me being a regular co-host. At the same time that I became a regular contributor for sites like dailysportscar.com. You may also know me as the guy that runs Super GT World, which is, as it says on the tin, site about Super GT and other forms of Japanese motorsport. But I know my F1. I've watched F1 for the better part of 20 years. Been watching racing, playing racing games since I was about a child. I think the same could go for a lot of us. So, hello. It's fantastic to see everyone. Please leave us all your feedback. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, this is also kind of like an intro sequence, because for a lot of new subscribers to this channel, this is going to be the first time you've probably seen these guys, especially in the flesh. So, we apologize in advance. We're not oil paintings.
But you assume people listen to the podcast?
I don't know. I'm not taking any chances. I'm humble like that. You never know.
Says.
Also, I love that I mentioned on Discord, RJ's to my right, where in the actuality on YouTube, he's actually directly below me. So, well organised, Dre, as always. Way to go. High five, everybody. So, to my right, my actual right, if you're watching us now, is Ryan King. Hello, sir.
Hello, I'm actually to your left. To your right is the border of the window.
This is going perfectly, everyone.
It's going great.
I'm not saying a fucking word.
But yeah, I've been here from the beginning. Before this show, I had another podcast that ran concurrently with this show, and then abruptly ended with a certain YouTube personality who has now been away from the community for a very, very long time.
The athlete VG era. What a time.
Yep, now I'm here full time, and it is now multiple years. Oh dear. But yeah. Yeah, it's to the point where I've actually been on more episodes of the show than Dre, and that's insane.
He has been on more episodes than me. I don't know the exact number. Somebody would have to go back and tally that up, but due to work commitments, I've sometimes missed 1 or 2 shows in a row. And King is all reliable, so he always ends up being on it. I think King's only missed like 3 or 4 shows ever in the history.
And one episode I missed due to surgery, and I was back the next week.
Remember this. Remember, this becomes important later.
Very much so. Very much so. And I don't even know what box he's in. I don't care anymore. He's in one of the 4 boxes you could watch on this stream right now. It's Cam Buckley. Hello, sir.
I exist, everyone. Yeah, we did it.
Made it.
I joined the show last year on the preview to the 24 Hours of Le Mans for 2019. I had the first of many legendary angry rants. Just kind of become my theme here. And the last time I was on a live stream on the internet where people could see my face, there was tears streaming down that face after Simon Pagenaud won the Indy 500.
Yeah. You had the rather inauspicious start to your M101 career because we needed somebody to help us along preview that Le Mans, especially considering how much of a mess that race was looking. I figured, why don't we get the guy who has the loudest opinions on the
loudest opinions, and I'm always on the hunt for more knowledge, more history, especially with sports cars.
And motorcycles.
And just motorsport in general.
Why don't you
goes fast?
Yeah. Why don't you have an avatar of yourself as a Seth MacFarlane character and some odd 1,000 subscribers on YouTube? Dre, how did you get here during this project? During this university project?
It's a story that I've said 100 times, and yet it still sounds completely implausible the more times I even go through it. For those guys that are new, hi, I'm Dre Harrison. Everybody calls me Dre now. Even though my actual name is Andre, believe it or not. Not even my own mother calls me that anymore. Just under 6 years ago, when I was studying in the final year of a broadcast journalism degree, I had 2 choices. Either do a 10,000 word uni dissertation like you normally do at the end of a degree in the UK, or do some sort of special media-based project. Now, I'd already been on YouTube for a significant amount of time as a Formula One video maker and YouTuber and general can of gasoline on the open fire that was Formula One YouTube in the early to mid 2010s. So that was already spicy enough as it was. I walked away from a channel that had 6,500 YouTube subscribers. And yeah, it was a project that I had to do for university, where I basically thought, okay, let's create a website, let's have a blog function on it, and let's do 10 audio podcasts, and that's what it was. I called on old friend Ryan King at the time. I knew he'd had experience doing podcasts before. He somehow agreed to my ridiculous request, and we did 10 episodes together, and it went over so well amongst so many people. I got numerous requests saying, why not keep it going? 240 episodes later, here we are. And we've had many a co-host in that time and run in history. Again, it was me and King are the two originals here. We've, I wouldn't go begrudging without mentioning other people we've had in the chair, like Adam Johnson, who sadly isn't here right now. But he had a significant part in this show's history as well in getting us to this point. But this is now pretty much the main core four, but we've had numerous long-time, extra guests like Krista Hardy, who you may have listened to on the show regularly, as well as Zoe Hamilton, who is an absolute delight, and again has been in, I think, a good 20, 30 episodes as well herself. So shout out to them. As I've been making Formula One videos since 2011 now, and yeah, September will be my 9th anniversary of making Formula One content on
Trey, someone is raising their hand.
Yeah. So I wanted to make a point that for a while, this wasn't just one podcast.
Yes,
we had two.
We had two. We had Bike Live as well. We brought Bike Live over from our days of Downforce Radio. Thanks, RJ. I actually genuinely forgotten for a second there. Don't show
Oh my
Lewis.
god!
I was going to mention.
We're leaving this in.
I let Lewis write forward from the book. I missed that. Honestly, there was a big blank patch in the middle, and I was figuring out what it was. I'll put that one down to tiredness. But we also had, of course, Bike Live come over from Downforce Radio as well. When me and Lewis Sotheby and Rebecca James were working together on that for many a year. We did 92 episodes of Bike Live over there. So if you actually add up all of our shows, we're getting close to 350 rather than just 250. So, it's been an incredible journey to get to this point. Like I said, I've been on and off of F1 YouTube for nearly 9 years now. Motorsport 101 is coming up towards 6 years as an anniversary this coming October. Right around the Russian Grand Prix, which was the first ever race we covered on the show. It was the first ever Russian Grand Prix back in 2014.
Was the Nico Rosberg and the Turn 1 lockup.
Yeah, the lockup that put him on the 51 out of 52 lap hard tyre strategy. I remember that like it was yesterday. And yeah, here we are, episode 250. Also, I know in the chat, Danny Brennan just goes, Lewis Sotheby is crying on a Spanish beach now. Look what you've done.
No, he's crying tears of joy on a Spanish beach. We're so proud of Lewis because he has made it to the big time. He's doing commentary for support rounds. He's entrenched in one of our favorite series, which we do talk about often.
Don't you cry for him. No,
You don't need your tears.
So that is pretty much all of us in the history of this show, from 4 wheels and 2 wheels, and now this is it, episode 250. Just to give you a quick rundown of what's coming up in the next hour or so, we'll be talking about the Hungarian Grand Prix, of course, Lewis Hamilton's dominance, Max Verstappen's installation lap drama, Lance Stroll's arguably best career race for a while, Ferrari's hot mess, Haas's hot mess, expansions to the calendar, yet more racial injustice shenanigans. Yes, we are still going to keep talking about this, whether you like it or not. Like as I mentioned, some of the calendar being expanded, such as the Nurburgring, the Algarve, and Imola heading to F1. very, very soon. All the support races in Formula 2 and Formula 3, and we'll talk a little bit of MotoGP as well, because a lot has gone down in Jerez since our last recording for episode 249, and of course the ongoing drama of Marc Marquez, and will he, won't he race in Jerez, and turns out he won't, but for good reason. We'll get into the nitty-gritty as to why, and in the second half of the show. But to get the general housekeeping part of the show out of the way, places you can find us all real quick, I don't even have to say
right here,
because our Twitter usernames are actually right next to our names. Nice one, King.
But I
Very
mean,
convenient.
There might be people who are listening to the audio version of the show later on.
Oh, for God's sake!
Remember, podcasting is a visual medium.
Very visual.
Valid point. I still keep thinking I'm in full video mode. I think this is going to be an actual audio show later. You can find us on Twitter at Harrison101HD, at Ryan Eric King, at RJ O'Connell, at CBuckley917. Of course, this very YouTube channel, youtube.com/Motorsport101. Subscribe, and you can get videos made from me, as well as future podcast recordings, highlights, segments, all that good stuff, including a brand new segment we're going to reveal as a sneak peek to episode 248. It's not quite out public yet, but we have a sneak peek of that up tomorrow, talking about Vettel, Perez, and the big debate about what should be going down at Racing Point. So, for those guys that have been listening in, watching this right now, there's a little preemptive spoiler for you. You get an extra video tomorrow. Fun times! We're on Facebook.com/Motorsport101. As mentioned, the podcast's Twitter itself is at Motorsport_101. And if you really, really like us, you can back us financially on Patreon, patreon.com/Motorsport101. Now, let this be known, $5 gets you early access to all of our episodes at least 24 hours before they come out to the general public. And if you back us at the $10 level, not only do you get that, you also get access to the supporters club of our Discord server, where you can listen to these episodes and watch them, because we all have our webcams on for this now. You can watch them and listen live as they're being recorded, because we're now actually going to be moving the direct recording process from Discord per se, and obviously Audacity, over to YouTube, because they'll handle a lot of the back end. So if you want access to all of our YouTube recordings as well, that availability is there now for $10 a month as well. It will clean up a lot of the back end. Hopefully it will speed up a bit of the production process as well. Once we iron out all the kinks. We're nearly there. King was in charge of that. It was like basically working out nuclear physics over the last week, trying to get this all figured out.
No. It was pretty much once I got the basic setup going, it was the Marc Marquez strategy of like, time to wreck this thing in practice.
We'll wreck it now. We'll figure it out for the actual run. So that's all been figured out now. So we're going to start recording these live on YouTube via unlisted links for anyone that's backs at the $10 level. We'll release the full recordings publicly later on down the road, probably when the full episodes come out. So hey, even more YouTube content for you to subscribe to as well. So all our shows will now be on YouTube as well as a bonus. Isn't that wonderful? And you can find all those details and a whole lot more on our website, motorsport101.com, featuring blogs and all that fun stuff as well. So all of our content is up there as well. This includes an automatic YouTube feed. It includes playlists to both of our shows. If you want to listen to the Bike Live archive, it's all there as well on the website. All 250 plus episodes of this show as well, and written content. Mostly me and RJ are over there. RJ every once in a while will chip in because he's generous like that. He never tells when they actually come out, so I can't actually plug him properly.
None shall know the hour.
Please do not forsake us, YouTube algorithm.
Right, and written content by me as well, normally up there, including the full MotoGP City Season update is up there in full right now. Content on Vettel versus Perez, all of that fun stuff is up there for you to enjoy. So, without further ado, welcome to episode 250, everybody. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. Strap in. Did RJ put in a Discord link as well to join the server by
Yes,
Yeah.
you could just pop in, join the server. I'm pretty sure you could watch me on iRacing after the show's over.
Oh.
What greater incentive could there be? The king, yeah. So if you're on YouTube right now, the link that RJ has put out is a link to join our Discord server. It's normally invitation only. RJ's been extremely generous and put the link out. We're recording this live on Discord as well. I'm just going to respect if anybody joins all of a sudden. Please, if you're going to listen to the general chat and listen to us, please keep your microphones on mute, please, and thank you. That would be wonderful. Thank you very, very much.
No unapproved guests.
So yeah, again, please don't be careful on your microphones. Thank you very much. And, yeah, enjoy the show, everybody. After this quick musical interlude, we'll be back. And yeah, we will talk the Hungarian Grand Prix.
King, they're saying that your mic levels are still a little bit too low.
Oh my lord. I mean,
He's like a rapper in the booth. It's like, how high do you want to turn him up?
Turn my headphones up! I can't hear out of this ear! There are other words to that sketch that are not permitted for use, and that's fine. It's the way it should be.
Turns out underneath King's headphones, like his ears are actually like 3 millimeters long.
okay.
You just
actually, it should be better now. Like, hopefully it's. Unless, oh man, I hope this isn't the case where I have to stop the stream. Like, maybe it hasn't been adjusting my audio and I have to stop the stream, restart to get it fixed. Which, it's not worth it. Oh man.
Uh-oh.
YouTube, why have you forsaken us?
Things are going to go great. I can already tell.
Like, Danny, it's not on Discord's end because... again, I'm the one streaming it. It's directly my microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he sounds good on our end.
Right. Yeah, because what we're hearing.
We're getting initial reports that it is better.
Okay. So the adjustments do work live.
Yeah, Brennan's saying it's a lot better. Josh is saying it's better. Rezi's saying it's better. Yeah, sounds promising to me. Yeah, cool. Everybody happy with that? If I'm happy with that,
well,
should we get into the gritty of Hungary? I think we should.
Let's do this.
Let's do this. Alrighty. So, the Hungarian Grand Prix. Hamilton wins again. Bye.
Max's heat death of the universe. Lewis Hamilton at Hungary.
He's good at this track. He's good at F1 in general.
Pretty much. I mean, was it 86 career wins now for Lewis Hamilton? Like,
now
Jesus Christ.
5 away from Michael Schumacher's all-time record. I believe this now makes him the driver with the most wins at any one circuit.
I believe so. I believe Schumacher had Magny Core, I want to say.
It's either a tie or the outright.
Yeah, it is a tie. It is a tie.
At the time, right. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Schumacher had 8 at Magny Core to tie it up. But, I mean, that was a joke to open the segment, but that's pretty much how the race went for Hamilton in essence. He took off from the opening lap and then no one could touch him. And he probably could have won this race by 20-odd seconds if they wanted to. I think they gave him the last-minute pit stop towards the end to go for the fastest lap attempt because they knew he had a pit stop in hand on Verstappen.
He would have lapped the entire field except for the podium had they not pitted him.
He didn't want anybody up to 4th. Oh, my word. That's just... Yeah, you'll see he spent the extra 20 seconds in the pits, came out back in front of Verstappen, went for a fastest lap attempt, not the fastest lap, so it's a clean 26-point sweep for Lewis Hamilton. Basically a perfect race, I guess you could say. Yeah, so a heated one to say the least. I mean, Hamilton's win was brilliant, but also arguably the least interesting thing about this race.
Because unfortunately the only person who could possibly touch him, one Valtteri Bottas, he blew the start.
He jumped it. Call it what it is. He jumped it. Unfortunately, he stuttered and stopped after he jumped, and then as a result, penalized.
Yeah, this happened. If you remember, this happened to Vettel in Japan last year, and I can't remember what track. It might have been Austria, where Carlos Sainz Jr. had the same thing happen for him.
I think it was, yeah.
So there is a precedent for this.
Didn't we also have something like this come up in MotoGP? Because I know there's like a set tolerance of this sort of thing in car racing, and that's become like a heated points in discussions all over again.
It's a bit interesting because this came up in MotoGP a couple of years ago. There's two flashpoints for it. Andrea Iannone jumped the start he jumped the start in inverted commas at Mugello a few years ago. He started that was in 2015. 2015 week where I talk about that book.
Shameless plug here.
But in the book I mentioned that Andrea Iannone did jump the start in that race, but not really, because MotoGP doesn't have like in track and field, where if you react within 0.1 of the gun, it's deemed a false start, because the fastest human reaction allowed is a blink of an eye, which is about 1/10 of a second, according to science. So any time there's a little bit of wiggle room for it, but anything under 1/10 in track and field would be considered a jump start, because humanly it's impossible to react that quickly. You've tried to predict the start, basically. Andrea Iannone pretty much did exactly that, but in MotoGP there is no tolerance after the lights go out. So apparently Iannone left his grid box at exactly 0.00 after the lights went out. There's no tolerance for that in MotoGP, so Iannone's start was technically legal, even though humanly he jumped it because he predicted it, because there's no way he could have reacted that quickly to the lights going out. This came up again a couple of years ago with Cal Crutchlow in Argentina, where he didn't jump the start, but he was rolling his bike forward before the lights went out. And then that was deemed as a jump start. Crutchlow was absolutely livid after that race, because it cost him a spot on the podium, because he had race winning level pace that day, but had to take a ride through penalty for jumping the start, and the punishment didn't really fit the crime, because a ride through in MotoGP is about a 40-second penalty.
That's a race killer.
Yeah, it's a race killer, and as a result, they now changed it so that it's now a double long lap penalty if you jump the start. You might have seen that in MotoGP last week in the Moto E race with Alex DeAngelis, and in the Moto 2 race with Jake Dixon, because they both jumped the start and they were given double long laps, which is about 5 seconds all in. So that's a quick explanation of the jump start situation. There is a tolerance in the rules for basically not taking advantage of said jump start, by the sounds of it. Even though by letter of the law, Bottas jumped again. I'm still salty about it.
If you move and then you still stop in your box again, it is legal before the lights go out, because that's what Bottas did. That's what Vettel did in Japan. That's what Sainz did in Austria. So
yeah,
it was legally illegal.
Yeah, and to be fair, his start afterwards was so bad he dropped to like 6th place afterwards anyway. So, in essence, I guess you could kind of make the argument, given he lost 4 places off the start, he kind of already served somewhat of a penalty because his start was shit. We kind of left it there, and there was mass confusion on Twitter. It's like, is that a penalty or not? Like, I saw Shane Bear and friend of the show Dorney arguing about it in the sporting regulations. Like, is this a jump or not? And yeah, it was all over the place. But that rule is a thing. It took Bottas a little while to make his way back through the field. The big race drama towards the end was him trying to chase down Verstappen on a 3-stop strategy, compared to Verstappen that was trying to hold out on older tyres on the 2-stopper. And Bottas ran out of time. Probably 1, maybe 2 laps short of where he should be. And I love that everybody just proceeded to dump on Bottas from a great height after that. I was like, nope, championship's over, boys. You can't pass Verstappen. It's over. Like, oh, damn.
Well, and this is the round where we got to see the Mercedes car advantage in full display. They had 9/10 on the field in qualifying. And that next car in the field was last year's Mercedes.
Yeah, before we get into the whole racing point thing, Cam, you made a point when we were discussing this race in private, like afterwards. How good is this Mercedes?
It's bored taking corners. It is unaffected by corners. It is. I haven't seen a car that sublime through corners since the 2016 Mercedes, maybe the RB9. It's absurd.
I watched Lewis Hamilton's pole lap in qualifying. He was flat through turn 11. I've never
bored with corners.
I've never
two of them drive it. It's almost boring. There's no overcorrections. The car just sticks.
Yeah, I've never seen a car go flat through turn 11 before. Normally, it's a very small lift. Hamilton's flat through 11, and it's on rails. I've never seen anything like it.
This thing's going to be fun to watch at Silverstone. Twice!
Oh, God.
Potentially thrice, Jesus.
Yeah, like... Did you hear the story of a small tangent that Silverstone said today they were willing to host as many as 12 races to fill the calendar out?
Yeah, I don't want that much Silverstone. Who's already pushing it?
No, they're just trying to pad out Lewis's pet British Grand Prix win count.
We have the 70th anniversary Grand Prix, we have the 70th anniversary Part 2, the 70th anniversary Part 3. We have the Lewis...
We have the British Grand Prix, the English Grand Prix, the Northamptonshire Grand Prix. The DFS Sale Grand Prix.
The DFS Sale.
DFS Sale. Oh, dear. Yeah, I had to get that tangent because that was hilarious. I was like, oh, yeah, so we can have 3 races. We can have 4 races. We can have 12 races. Why not? We're going to get a calendar one way or another.
You sound like LeBron James going to Miami.
Do we want to talk about Verstappen's race? Because that got interesting way before we even started.
Yeah, Verstappen's race arguably wasn't the interesting part. It's what happened before the race.
Yeah, installation lap coming out of the pits half an hour before the race start. I'm at work and I see this tweet saying, Verstappen has binned it on the installation lap. And I'm like, what?
Shades of Romain Grosjean at Brazil 2016.
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, dear.
Oh, my Lord.
I think it was the bottom of the track. I think it was turn 12, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't turn 12. It was sector 2, the long right hand.
If you remember, when we had the wet race in 2014, was it the same place that Lewis binned it on like the first couple of laps?
No, his was earlier. Hamilton's was between turns 1 and 2. No, I remember that one. I believe it was the backside. I'm sure the chat will help you out here anyway, but when it comes around, but I'm pretty sure it was like turn 5 where he's gone off before the chicane, the first of the chicane sequences, and he's just gone on the wet stuff on the outside of the track and completely skidded into the wall. It's just aquaplaning 101. Right there, which should be the name of a spin-off show. Quite frankly.
Lord. We only cover wet races. But skidded off into the wall, broke the push rod and I think the top wishbone. And we're wondering, is he gonna DNS this one? Because he had a swarm of mechanics on the front of his car.
The dreaded DNS did not start. That was very nearly a real thing. Red Bull's mechanics had to scramble around the car, changing the front end, making sure the suspension was okay, the floor, etc., etc. They only had about 15 minutes before the off to get the car fixed, and they did.
They did with 30 seconds to spare.
Heroic job.
Let's not forget, these guys are in the middle of the 3rd week of a triple header, and they've been pretty much going non-stop for 21 days now in Formula 1, and they were able to fix the entire front end of a car in 15 minutes. Whatever they pay these dudes, they do not pay them enough, quite frankly. That was a heroic effort from Verstappen's crew and mechanics to get them back out there, and the car pretty much ran flawlessly in the race, and it was another phenomenal drive from Verstappen, who pretty much is pound for pound the second best driver on the planet right now, because that was beyond the maximum that Red Bull was realistically going to get this week.
We didn't talk about Red Bull. Red Bull's qualifying
Oh,
displayed all the flaws in that car, because Red Bull, just as much as Ferrari, are staking up the place this year, and we'll get to them in a minute. Red Bull's car was awful in qualifying.
They qualified 7th, and Albon was 13th, and Albon did well.
Williams.
The same Williams of George Russell, who went on Sky Sports to defend his friend and call out Red Bull Racing on their bullshit.
Yeah. I think his quote was something along the lines of, "I can't believe what's going on at Red Bull. Alex is one of the best drivers I've ever raced against. I don't understand how this is happening or what's going down at Red Bull." And I'm pretty sure... Yeah, go on, Cam.
The quote was, "Albon is being made to look like an idiot."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, strong statement.
Red Bull's car this year has some really fundamental problems. Once again, where every year it seems Red Bull talks a big game in preseason, and they come into the season with a very flawed car, and then they have to fix it. And by the time that they have the car fixed, the championship's dead and gone. They got pole here last year, ahead of the Mercedes, which was fearsome around this kind of downforce heavy, slow speed corner track, and they were nowhere.
Pretty sure Max was 1.5 seconds off the top in qualifying. I think it was something along those lines.
Yeah,
I have the numbers here. So Hamilton did a 1:13.4, Verstappen did a 1:14.8, so about 1.4 seconds off. You're right, almost on the money by like a tenth of a second.
Yeah, and I think the really big thing here with Verstappen and Albon is that this isn't a case of, like I said on the show in Hungary with Seb and Charles and their driving styles.
Austria,
yeah. I can't with 2020 anymore. It's just a blur.
Look, we've got both halves of the Austro-Hungarian Empire of the early 20th century on the brain. It's fine.
Oh God,
it happens.
This isn't a case of the car favoring one driver or another. This is a car with deep fundamental problems, and I think that small difference, because I think Verstappen, as you said, is probably the second best driver pound for pound in F1. That small difference between them, where I think Verstappen is a little better with car control right now, and it makes sense. Albon is in his second year, is suddenly amplified quite a lot by the flaws of the Red Bull, where normally a very small pace difference then blows out to a large gap.
We're seeing a similar thing with Repsol Honda MotoGP, where they have one rider who is the best in terms of bike control, and that only amplifies the difference between him and, I guess, a replacement level rider on the same bike.
Yeah, because if you've got someone with that much raw car control, they can kind of mask the flaws of a car or a bike. And Verstappen is doing that right now. He's kind of just brute forcing the flaws of the Red Bull. Even then, he couldn't in qualifying. He qualified 7th.
Yeah, and you look at the end of the race results, you see Albon 70 seconds back of Verstappen, kind of like what happened in Styria. And I would wager...
This year, where you'd think Albon would be closer with more time in the car and more experience overall, instead the lap time gap between them is blown out.
Jeez, I feel bad for Alex, man.
It's not a good look when Verstappen pretty much told them to mind your own business, basically. Worry about your own team. Look how great we are, basically. And
then after qualifying Verstappen and Helmut Marko himself are openly criticizing the car.
Right. So this clearly was not the droids that Red Bull Racing were looking for, and once again Verstappen had to pull a big performance out of his keister to make it even look marginally respectable. And that's not going to happen every single weekend. You know, like Verstappen's not going to bail you out 19 rounds out of 19 or however many we end up getting by the time we get to
looking back at Austria. I mean, Austria as a track layout is about as good for Red Bull as it can get with the high to medium speed corners and the fact that Red Bull always do well in high altitude. And they were half a second off Mercedes. Now on a track that is a little more representative in terms of altitude, they're nowhere.
So where do you think they end up at Silverstone with more high-speed corners and a bit more representative altitude?
Oh. Probably a little better because the Red Bull is very strong in high-speed corners. But I mean, through the low-speed chicanes, Mercedes is going to eat them alive.
Yeah, what do you reckon, King?
Yeah, I like exactly what Cam said. The Mercedes is going to eat them alive, especially during the arena complex. Like they're going to get destroyed.
I mean, we can kind of touch on Ferrari for just a second here. Ferrari had the second best car in the third sector, and they were losing a tenth a corner.
Wow.
Yeah. Mercedes' car, someone did the chart, and they went back through every race of the hybrid era. Mercedes hasn't had this much lap time advantage since the first race of 2015, which wasn't representative in itself because Vettel had spent most of the race stuck behind a Williams.
Wow.
Yeah, it was ugly. It was ugly.
So in theory, this is the furthest Mercedes has been in front of the field during the hybrid era
since 2015.
Since 2015, like
it was bigger in 2014, but that was kind of a given.
Yeah.
If you are a Mercedes fan, you are absolutely loving what you're seeing. If you're a Red Bull or Ferrari fan, you are dreading what you're seeing and what's coming ahead.
I don't want to be on this planet anymore. As mentioned, try and weekend for Albon, he would end up in 5th. He was in a pretty much a race-long fight with Sebastian Vettel.
Good recovery drive at the end of the day. 13th to 5th.
Yeah,
he did. Not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good going. Vettel had a couple of unforced errors off-road a couple of times, but it was a solid 6th place for him in the end, which, again, was just about as good as he was.
Well, once again, proving that he is the only strategist worth a damn in the red team. Vettel demanded some mediums. Mediums are what he got. Meanwhile, for his teammate, the softs died immediately, and he didn't even score points.
Yeah, he couldn't get any heat into the soft tyre whatsoever, and he was just stuck in the lower end of the midfield fighting with Lando Norris for the most part, which, hey, was actually quite entertaining on paper. Seeing the full-time streamers and part-time racing drivers go head-to-head again for the first time in some weeks. But yeah, Vettel was sick. He vetoed the strategist's call, saying, the strategist wanted softs. Vettel got mediums, and then Vettel went
held in the pits.
Yeah, he got held
in the pits for traffic.
Yep.
Lost 7 seconds in the pits as well. Just again, I think, like Martin Brundle, I think was uber critical because any release during the time could have been an unsafe release. It would have been very touch and go.
Yeah, like the one with Sainz and one of the Williams cars, Latifi, I believe it was. Yeah, and that ended up ruining Latifi's race because he ended up getting a puncture out of that.
Yeah, he ended up was 5 laps down with floor damage?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Latifi was running 8th when that incident happened.
You have to say, the Williams this year, not too bad.
It's not too bad at all. I mean, look, Russell and Latifi were the last cars classified, but we saw it in qualifying. They look much better than they did this time last year, which is only good for that team. You want to know what
I think a rotted out Chrysler LeBaron on track would be better than last
year. I love that Chrysler K platform. I want to talk about Lance Stroll because this was his best race as a Formula 1 driver in years.
I think this might be the best race as a Formula 1 driver, period.
He qualified 3rd. He turned it in 4th. Best of the rest. Say what you will, last year's Mercedes. But all we wanted out of Lance Stroll was to make a good account of himself in qualifying, regardless of his equipment, and for him to put together a complete race. And he did exactly that.
He out-qualified Perez.
That's no mean feat.
No, he was on the losing end of an 18-3 qualifying head-to-head against Sergio Perez last season.
Yep, and he got one of those back. It was funny to watch, comparing this year's Racing Point to the Racing Point last year. You watch the F1 released a side-by-side because they gained the most time compared to last year, I believe. And the first sector, like, okay, it's a little bit faster, and then you get to the second sector, and it just starts ripping time out of last year's car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The terrifying thing was that Lance Stroll was in the only other car worth a damn not named Max this week, and he still finished 57 seconds behind Hamilton's winning car.
Man, I don't really care that much how far behind he finished. To turn in that result, that's got to be encouraging.
Yeah, just to show the sheer pace advantage that Mercedes has. They were 9/10 clear in qualifying.
Yeah. Like I said, Stroll was 20 seconds ahead of Albon by the time it was all said and done on track. And the Red Bull, we know, is still probably the second best car overall on paper. So we think. Maybe.
We should say that all of these results are still under investigation because Renault has lodged yet another protest, like they did at Steiermark.
Well, they have to file a protest because if they only file the original protest and their car is deemed illegal, only the Steiermark results would be accounted for. All the other results would be unaffected if they don't protest the car in those races.
Yeah, if you go back to last year, same deal with Renault themselves when Racing Point protested their illegal brake bias adjustment system.
I told you there's a pettiness factor to it, and this also would affect Perez finishing 7th provisionally.
Yep, so petty the name is Richard.
Like Lee, Richard, Kyle, and Adam all together.
Indeed.
Driver of the day candidate? How about Kevin Magnussen going from the pit lane, gambling on slicks, running up in the top 10 all day, 9th on the road. He and Romain Grosjean get time penalties for driver assist during the formation lap, but it's still enough for 10th, and a point's a point for a team that desperately needed them.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. 9 teams are already off the mark in terms of scoring. But to clarify the situation, Formula One clamped down quite hard on this in 2016, where driver instructions were no longer allowed. And it was Haas's decision to tell their drivers to go into the pit lane on the warm-up lap. And as a result, that is deemed as a driver assist. You're only allowed to intervene if it's a safety issue. Changing tyres was not that. It was a strategy call. So, yeah, they had to take a 10-second time penalty. You may remember this from Nico Rosberg at the British Grand Prix that same year in 2016, where he was told to nurse the gearbox home. And he was given a 10-second penalty that day. He dropped him down from 2nd to 3rd. Verstappen took another humble brag that day by beating the Mercs. But, that's the reason why.
Then, of course, that set the precedent for the penalty, and the FIA had to relax it slightly because, well, if everyone's just going to save their cars and get a 10-second penalty, what's the point?
Precisely. So driver instructions for safety reasons became exempt afterwards because, as I mentioned before, this that rule penalty was clearly done so that people at home could stop complaining about these drivers not going 110% every single lap. Like it's the 90s all over again.
Back in my day.
Well, it came up during the time period when Rosberg was starting to become a real threat to Lewis Hamilton, and people complained that because one thing that Rosberg does a lot is acts about information the team is receiving from the car, and he used that to help manage the car, and they broadcast that information, and people hated it. They felt like it was some form of cheating, and they complained about it enough, and the FIA actually changed the rules.
And then
George Springer couldn't get all those home runs without them banging a trash can. Nico Rosberg can't drive to victories without him being told what to do every lap, every corner.
Well, then it blew up in Lewis's face in Baku when he had an engine issue and the team wasn't allowed to tell him how to fix it.
Yep. It's like, just do this bit.
Sweet,
Also, the next set list is a breaking ball. Anyway, but yeah, very much so. And that's why Haas had both their cars suffer a 10-second time penalty, but a phenomenal drive from Kevin Magnussen to keep that sucker in the points. Haas is probably 8th or 9th on the power rankings list as a team right now. That car has no business being in the points, and yet
the worst Ferrari on pace.
On pace alone and merit. Well done, K-Mag. I've said it before on Twitter that K-Mag is the most underappreciated driver in the paddock. And I am cashing in my check where that's concerned. So, yeah, brilliant drive from K-Mag. And well done, Haas, for taking the 10-second bullet and making the right call to come in to change tyres before the race had even started, because it wasn't really intermediate conditions out there.
At the end of the day, it was a net positive.
Yeah, absolutely. It was well worth the 10-second penalty, which is exactly why this rule was nonsense in the first place. Quick rundown of the full and any other stumbling stories in between. As mentioned, Hamilton winning by 8.7 seconds over Max Verstappen, set the fastest lap of the race as well, so he gets the bonus points of 26 for LH in that one. Max Verstappen second. He finished 0.7 ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who ran out of laps trying to gun him down in the end. He would finish in third. Lance Stroll's best career finish since Germany last year in fourth. Alex Albon in fifth. Sebastian Vettel in P6. Sergio Perez in seventh. ... maybe. Daniel Ricciardo eighth. Carlos Sainz ninth. Good drive, given that the McLaren hype train may have come rolling into a bit of a halt.
McLaren. I mean, last year the McLaren was a better efficiency car rather than a downforce car, and it showed up again this race.
Do you think they'll be fine in Silverstone? I would hope so.
I think that car should be a jewel around Silverstone, but around higher downforce, twistier stuff, maybe not.
Indeed, and yeah, still a solid drive from Carlos Sainz. Remember him, the other guy at McLaren?
Yeah. Two-time driver of the year on Motorsport 101 for our avid podcast listeners.
Yeah, finally woke us. Hey, remember me?
Yeah, the other guy, the guy that's not on scenario 7 at the end.
Also, yeah, Zach, please don't send me away to the Red Menace.
Keep me, Daddy. Yeah, 9th.
Folks, place you can find us one more time.
10th for Kevin Magnussen in the Haas car, 11 for Charles Leclerc, a race that had no issues besides bad strategy, and he doesn't score a point. That's the state of Ferrari right now.
Charles was never there this weekend, was he?
No, completely anonymous, was out-qualified and then outgunned in the race and put on a poor strategy. That's your lead driver. Humble brag. I'm not bitter at all, honestly. No, sir. Not whatsoever. I am never going to dunk. I am not going to dunk on Charles Leclerc for 2 races in a row. Never. Not a chance. Not in a million years. Anyway, Daniil Kvyat in 12th. Lando Norris in 13th. Esteban Ocon, very quiet weekend for him, in 14th. Kimi Räikkönen 15th. Grosjean 16th. Antonio Giovinazzi 17th. George Russell and Nicholas Latifi 18th and 19th. As mentioned, Nicholas Latifi was 5 laps down after spins, a puncture, floor damage, and God knows what else. Give our Canadian son another chance. I know we've got 2 of them now in the sport, but we like Nicholas Latifi on this show. He's a funny dude, and he deserves better.
I'm not forgetting what he did to me on iRacing, Latifi. If you're out there watching, you brake checked me at Daytona in practice for no reason.
Look, should we talk about
personal beef?
Should we talk about the quote that he gave after the race? Should we give the quote about like when I think it was one reporter asked him, like, could you give us some comments in your own language? It's just like my native language is English.
He's not from Quebec. Like, that was Johnny Herbert that did that. God bless him, Johnny. Like, you all know he means well, but like, in your native language, he thought he was from the French part of Canada, clearly.
It's weird because he's born. It says he's born in Montreal, but I always thought he was from Ontario because apparently he was raised there.
Yeah, and you know, he picked 6 for a reason.
Oh yeah, because that's the nickname of Toronto. He would be Don Cherry's favorite F1 driver over Stroll if we ever gave Don Cherry a platform again. We never should.
Or so Drake's album, so he's from the 6. Oh, I see. Of course. Yeah, and I love that after he gave that quote, he ended up walking into one of the cable wires immediately afterwards as well.
King, did you lay that line there?
No, there's no way for me to have traveled to Hungary, RJ.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know. You could have. You're quite small, King. They could have smuggled you in the hand luggage.
No, I got my handy Yamaha music case.
No, we are not going through Carlos Ghosn crime.
And Pierre Gasly was the only retirement 15 laps in, officially a gearbox failure. That's the Hungarian Grand Prix. I give this race a solid 5 humanitarian violations out of 10.
I'll give it a solid 4.4 #blessed out of 10.
Yeah, it was about a 5 for me. It was a pretty run-of-the-mill Grand Prix. Unfortunately, the rain really wasn't a factor in the end because it was pretty much dry by the time we got going. It didn't really have a major factor in the race. And at the front, it was a Hamilton runaway train. And oh my god, I've just seen my Twitter timeline and King just put me in a quote on Twitter. You bastard! You put "keep me tatting" as a quote on Twitter.
Well, could be worse. He could out your taste in steak again.
No, let's not.
Yeah, let's pull it back a bit because we got some more serious stuff to talk about. How F1 bungled this whole thing. How people spoke up that maybe shouldn't have had a right to, don't have the qualifications to speak up about it.
Yeah, like, you know, it's not a good sign when, like, Ted Kravitz, the most placid head in the clouds F1 pundit on Earth, called it a, quote, total shambles on his notebook, which you can now watch on YouTube. But yeah, it was a mess. They had to scramble together at the last minute before the national anthem to try and get this end racism, like, presentation, socially distanced podium thingy-majig in the pit lane ready to go. There was drivers scrambling to get there in the end. I think a couple of the guys had even forgotten the t-shirt. I think it might have been Gio by accident. Don't quote me on that, but he'd forgotten the t-shirt. But of course he had to get there because they were seconds away from playing the national anthem, and no one in F1 is going to impede the national anthem. That's been quite clear. They've organised from the start it was going to be before the anthem starts playing, and the anthem started playing, so everybody has to stand up to try and respect that anthem, and the whole thing just came off like a goddamn mess. It wasn't organised. It was completely conflicted, and Lewis went off after the race talking about this. He threw Grosjean under the bus publicly, which I thought was hilarious, where he basically said that, Grosjean said, we did it once. I thought that would do it. I'm just
and like, it's to say that it was poorly organized makes it seem like they tried to organize this. The fact that we're racing at all, that we've set up this bio bubble in various cities across Europe to have Formula One races, yet somehow you can't organize a simple protest. I find that very hard to believe.
This was minimal to no effort organization.
No, zero. Like, the fact that the drivers couldn't even all wear a t-shirt. I mean, come on. Like, the organization level is
it felt like the drivers thought they had more time, and they
didn't.
Yeah. And clearly there was a lack of communication between Formula One and everyone else in terms of how much time they had until the anthem was going to start playing. Also,
and it was a matter of seconds.
Also, why couldn't they just wait? Why did they have to play the anthem that precise time? We go back to the week before where the drivers kneeled again for the second time and they cut away on the world feed.
For pre-taped skydiving footage.
Skydivers. This is the third time round, F1. The third time.
It feels like they're purposely trying to make this go away.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's like, get back in the box. Yeah, that's what it feels like right now. It's like now they've let the box open. Now it's like they're trying to cram it all back in, and this was a mess. Like I said, like Hamilton spoke out to Sky Sports after the race. He was not happy at all about the situation. He said that Formula One was not doing enough of its platform to promote this, and that it was a disorganized mess. He called out Grosjean publicly, who, let's not forget, is 1/3 of the heads of the driver association, and said that according to Grosjean, one knee was enough, apparently. And it reminded me of that David Guetta meme where it was like, hey, he just ended racism with this like beat drop all over again. And it was a colossal mess. And he actually praised Sebastian Vettel on the other end for saying that I spoke to Vettel on WhatsApp, and he stressed the importance of continuing to kneel, not letting this message die out, and trying to reinforce what the drivers, or what he and Lewis in particular want to get out of this situation. And I think King's got it on the nose. I think they were just trying to squash another protest, and again, like, there was no communication, there was no organisation whatsoever, and again, there is no excuse from Formula One to be this disorganised and to be this messy. We've seen numerous other sports be able to get this right. We've seen it in baseball. Baseball came back a couple of days ago. And
during the return for baseball, the first game played in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, the entire rosters of both the New York Yankees and the Washington Nationals, the Nationals, the defending World Series champions, who went to the White House, kneeled in protest before the start of the game.
All right.
Yeah, indeed. Get well soon, Juan Soto, by the way. As an active case, of course. But and that was pretty much across the board for pretty much all the opening day games in baseball. The baseball themselves putting Black Lives Matter as a part of their advertising for these games that are on the base pad, for example. Many stadiums had it in the stands as part of their mock-up with fan-fit faces and crowds and whatnot. Again, cricket, like, they were all on the same page. The final test between the West Indies and England is going on as we speak. We've just had stumps on day 2 at time of recording. On day 1, before the first ball was played, every member of the West Indies team lined up in the slips position, took a knee, raised a fist, and England joined them amongst that. Every player and coach were unison in this. So as far as I'm concerned, there's no excuse from Formula One, and you're never going to get the drivers on the same page. I think that's been long established and long clear. I've said it time and time again. They don't want to piss off their racist fans.
You could at very fucking minimum, the drivers who are on the same page, at least make it possible for them to do that.
Right. Where is John Tott in all this, is the question that Lewis answered. Well, John Tott gave some very, very awful quotes to the press about this whole thing. I could not believe that he had actually said that about his own wife, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and forgive me for quoting directly off of John. I say this because the impact needs to be said, that he referred to his own wife as yellow, and I just...
Yeah, he gave a quote initially that was perilously close to him saying all lives matter.
Oh, he did. He did actually say that.
Yeah.
He actually did. He more or less said it. And look, I openly say, if you don't understand why saying all lives matter is problematic in response to this, get your head out of your ass. Where have you been for the last 6 weeks? As far as I'm concerned on this one.
Burying your dumbass head in your dumbass sand.
Because it is ridiculous, and this is the president of the FIA coming out and basically squashing everything. Like, he described what Hamilton was talking about as a sensitive issue, and I'm just like, oh shit!
Yeah, it is sensitive, and it is meant to be discussed in a way that, like, yeah, it's going to make people uncomfortable by nature because they have to confront this.
Yeah, and when you say things like "all lives matter," it completely squashes that attempt to have these open dialogues and discussions and to talk about the fact that black people don't get treated fairly in a lot of Western countries, and it's completely disappointing, but unfortunately really not surprising that old man John is out here saying this, because this was a bad week for old man takes on motorsport and going through, because Jackie Stewart denied that there was a diversity, denied that F1 has a diversity
and was
problem.
then, I will say, it was then called out by one Mr. Willie T. Ribbs.
Yeah, this was not a good week for Sir Jackie. It's not a good week for Mario Andretti.
Yeah, Willie T. Ribbs basically saying that of all his time in motorsport, no one was more racist towards him than Jackie Stewart.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's not throwing your toys out of the pram, that's throwing the entire pram down the hill. Yeah, that was as strong an accusation as you could possibly get, as mentioned. Like Mario Andretti, was also asked about this, and he said, quote, "The problem doesn't exist." And he described Lewis Hamilton, he described Hamilton as militant. Well, what the fuck does that mean, Mario? Look, we really shouldn't be asking white men that have no clue what Hamilton's had to go through or about racism, because they are not going to understand. However, what I have a deeper problem with here is that the fact that you're denying Hamilton's experience of racism in this sport. You're not even prepared to listen to what he has to say and acknowledge that, hey, it's not about me. It's about what he's had to go through. I stopped racing in motorsport 40, 50 years ago. Maybe I should listen to the man that's the biggest name in motorsport right now, listen to him, and see what we can do to make the experience better for him and for everyone else coming up.
I get the feeling like we mentioned about F1, trying to sweep all this under the rug. You just know that they're asking some of those people who what their take is going to be exactly to get that take.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. Of course, Mario Andretti is not going to talk about racial experiences in motorsport. He wasn't a part of it.
His whole experience with discrimination as a United States immigrant, way different than the experience that Willie T. Ribbs, Wendell Scott, Bubba Wallace have had to go through. It's a much different experience.
Yeah, and it comes off as really tone deaf, because at the early part of his career, when Mario Andretti was at the peak of his powers, and Jackie Stewart was also racing, we had here in the U.S. the Olympic Project for Human Rights, where black athletes were going to boycott going to the Olympic Games in 1968 in Mexico City, and then eventually they decided, hey, we're going to participate in these games, but we're going to protest.
Did Mario, I know it's a different experience, but hey, Mario can empathize. Did he forget when he won the Daytona 500 and all the newspapers saying that this was the darkest day for America because an Italian immigrant won the biggest race in NASCAR?
If anything, it is a different experience, but you'd think it would give him a little bit of perspective himself. Like, hey,
have some fucking empathy, man.
So I was discriminated against.
And it's different.
And it was different, but look at your own experience and think, wow, they have it even worse.
Right.
But instead he just buries his head in the sand.
Yeah, go on, King.
What Mario said afterwards, where he said, like, you know, obviously he said he faced discrimination too, but he, you know, drove well. Basically, he said he drove well, won races, and now he earned everyone's respect. And Lewis has done the same thing in Formula 1. There's no reason for him to throw it away. And it kind of ignores why Lewis is protesting.
Yeah, like, you're winning respect to be treated as a fellow human being? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. And describes Hamilton as militant for doing so. It's a quote. It's a problem that doesn't exist.
There's a big fucking difference between respect as a racing driver and respect as a fellow fucking human being.
Right. It's the bar is buried in the Earth's mantle, and still some of these dudes find a way to trip over it. Oh Lord of mercy! It shows us how far we still have to go. And I know Mario is a man that is basically royalty in American motorsport, and I was so disappointed to read those comments. So disappointed. As RJ alluded to, as an Italian immigrant, you'd think he'd have at least some level of empathy for what Lewis is going through, because his experience was compromised because of his heritage and background as well. And no, he went completely the other way and completely dismissed Hamilton's experience, even though this is a man that's been racially abused in his time in motorsport for 25 years. From his karting, he talked about being racially abused on track from parents and other people he was racing against, all the way through the system. I mean, it goes way beyond Spain 2008. It is elements of his entire career that play up why he's protesting. And at this point, if you're dismissing that, you're being ignorant for good reason, and it's very, very disappointing.
I love how Sasha just put it in the YouTube chat. Mario's basically saying, I shut up and drove.
It worked for you, but it doesn't work for everyone. Once you're done with this podcast, go listen to Willie T. Ribs on Beyond the Grid.
In fact, go watch Uppity.
Yeah,
which is on Netflix.
Because the thing is that, like,
perspective.
The thing is that Mario might conflate him doing well to people accepting him, but it's a fact that, you know, racism against Italian Americans isn't what it used to be.
Yeah, like, it's much different now than it was back then.
Yeah, of course. And you would think, like I said, that given his experience, he would at least have the empathy to listen to what Lewis has had to go through. But again, it makes it doubly disappointing. Like, given what Willie T. Ribs had to say about Jackie Stewart, his take no longer surprises me, because clearly he had his head up his arse as far as I'm concerned regarding these comments.
Yeah. But looking back, Jackie Stewart, how many years has he been dismissive of Lewis Hamilton's accomplishments in racing? Well, we might have a little perspective as to why.
He was always on the negative end of comments about Lewis Hamilton. He always had issues with his lifestyle. He always had issues with the way he conducted himself on and off the track, which, as I've come to learn in my time as being a pseudo motorsport journalist, is a really long way of saying black. And the fact that he's come out and again been dismissive of Hamilton's comments, and now with Willie T. Ribs accusations, we can now kind of see where Stewart's head was amongst some of these comments, which again is just extremely disappointing. But hey, we'll keep you posted on anything else that goes down. Of course, this is going to be an ongoing discussion and topic on this program, as far as we're concerned, going forward. And Jesus Christ, we've got a long way to go, folks.
I wonder if Jackie's still friends with Roman Polanski.
Oh boy. Let's pump the brakes on this one for a bit. Dre just walked out. I would be.
He went full F1 Twitter guy. Oh my god. Moving on.
That guy.
That might be the most savage. That might be the most savage line in the 250 episodes we've ever done.
Oh wow.
That's up there. That's in the top 3 comfortably. He hasn't been this crazy since he started talking about Megan Klingenberg back in our early days.
Let's move on.
You know the one, King. You know the one. Anyway.
Coach Tibbs coming to the mix. Now let's talk about the calendar.
Yes, we have 3 more races announced in the month of October/early November, because I think the third one just drifts. I think it's November 1st, the day of the race itself. But a triple header in the month of October will include... We're going back to the Nurburgring! Yeah!
The Grand Prix Strecke is back, baby!
Yeah.
Love it.
First
Love
time
it.
since 2013.
Love it. Love it. I love the Nürburgring GP circuit. I always have. It's one of my favorites on the calendar. It's such a fun track to race around. So fast and free-flowing. Actual overtaking opportunities. Who would have thought it? You can just have 2 DRS zones on the up to the chicane in the first corner, and you can call it a day, everybody. Yeah. We don't even need pesky 3 RS. Maybe. But, yeah.
I think we run the 24-hour layout, and the whole Dottingerhole is a DRS zone.
Ooh. No, we're done there. I've got a strong affinity for the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit because that was the demo track on Formula 1 on the PS1, which was my first experience with a 3D Formula 1 game, and one of my first experiences on an original PlayStation. What's the new circuit that's coming next?
Portimao. We're going to Portimao for the first time.
Finally.
Woo!
Yep.
Finally.
Goodbye, Estoril. Hello, Portimao.
Oh, I've wanted this on the calendar for so long.
The first Grand Prix in Portugal in 24 years, I believe. Since we last raced in Estoril back in 1996. So yeah, we're going to Portimao. Last seen probably most likely for GP2 in 2009.
Yeah.
And if you're a World Superbikes fan, you've probably seen a lot of that action going down around there. Let's not forget, on this show, it was also the birthplace of what's become the biggest running gag of World Superbikes, the Mahias rule. It's the track.
No, not the Mahias rule.
Anything but the Mahias rule.
If I ever have to explain that again, I will tear my own face off. No Nicolas Cage. But I love Portimao as a racing circuit. Undulation out the ass. Technical corners, fast and slow. Again, a couple of decent left straights for overtaking opportunities. It's going to be a fine technical challenge.
I was surprised to see so many people come out with like the contrarian, like this track's gonna suck worse than Imola take on this.
Oh! No, the front... if they don't run the turn 1 chicane, I think they'll be just fine.
Now that you've said that...
Oh. They're
By the way,
why did you speak it into existence?
to point out, last Portuguese Grand Prix in Estoril was a Williams Renault 1-2. In case you need to know how far back 1996 was, when the team out of Northamptonshire was running foil gold cars. Were called Jordans instead of Racing Points.
Ah, yes, the glorious Jordan Peugeot.
And Max Verstappen's dad was in this race.
Yeah. Yes. We don't speak of him. Also, I love that Rezi in the chat goes, do explain the Mahias rule. It's off. That's what I say in response to that. But like, I love Portimao. Great track. Looking forward to it. Should be I do think on paper this is better than the other track that's been added as the part of the triple header. We kind of alluded to this, given it just got its FIA Grade 1 status back a couple of months ago. We're going back to Imola, ladies and gentlemen, on November 1st. Also should be pointed out, 2-day weekend. 2 days, not 3. I love it. I want a 2-day weekend.
That's what we should have been doing in the first place when we started racing in. Condense it all down in 2 weekends, have no more than 2 practices the day before. You run same day qualifying the morning of the race, and then you have the race.
We're talking about practice.
I am all for one practice session. Do the 190-minute practice session on Friday morning, or Saturday morning, and you can do the qualifying where it normally is in the 2 p.m. slot, UK time.
Fuck it, do it like NASCAR. No practice, no qualifying, random draw.
No items, tops only, final destination, yeah? But no, like,
Can I bring a modded GameCube controller?
Wombo combo! We're bringing back all the hits.
We're bringing back all the hits here. Jesus Christ. Rule taunts, everybody. We're going back to like 2009 here. But yeah, like it's a 2-day weekend at Imola, and I love it. I love the fact it's a 2-day weekend. These race weekends are inherently more boring when these guys get literally 3.5 hours of practice running before we actually turn a wheel for a session that counts for something. Unless the rain pisses down somewhere and we have to go off a practice session for times instead. But I am all for like a 90-minute Saturday morning practice, qualifying in the 2 p.m. slot, and then get the race on Sunday as per normal. Maybe you throw in a half-an-hour warm-up session on Sunday morning as a compromise. But like, even that, even then, I am all for a 2-day weekend. By the way, Imola-wise, we're running the Variante Alta version, so no final chicane. I did get clarification on this, thanks to Henry and Tom97, YouTube friend of ours as well, that clarified. The last chicane is only for bikes now. They only run for the World Superbike rounds they have down there and the Italian National Championship. Formula 1 and other open wheels are going to run the entire back straight all the way down to Tamburello. So that's going to be a hellacious, massive DRS zone.
It is. It makes the track flow better.
The track named after Enzo and Dino Ferrari.
Oh boy!
Is Ferrari really weak this year? Oh, it's not super weak in the corners. It's super weak in a straight line, isn't it?
Oh boy!
Oh,
and they may not even be that good in the wet.
Oh no, they're trash in the wet.
Oh, they were undrivable in Styrian qualifying. Like Vettel was in 10th and spun in Q3. I still remember seeing like somebody did a side-by-side shot last week on Twitter of Charles Leclerc's pole position lap from the 2019 Austrian Grand Prix and his fastest lap in Q3 in 2020. The car's 10 miles an hour slower on the straights. 10 miles an hour.
Yeah. In fact, we should get to the news that, well, the weakness of this year's Ferrari has prompted a response from Ferrari management.
Oh yeah.
They restructured the whole technical department.
Rory Byrne's back in a meaningful role. He's not just being like given an honorary desk job. No, he's going to be directly involved in the car again for the first time in 8 years. We don't talk about the F14T.
Oh, no, actually, he was involved in the SF70H, the 2017 car, which is pretty good.
Okay.
Rory Byrne of the great era of Schumacher, Todd, Braun, Byrne.
Yeah.
And they brought Resta back, basically Simone Resta, who was shipped out of the team to Alfa Romeo in July 2018.
Finally.
It has been a pile of junk ever since. Well, he's back on the chassis side of things. And
how much time do they have to turn this car around?
This car's a dead. This
car's a lost cause.
This car's a lost cause. This really has to be a move for 2022, for the new regulations. It has to be.
You'd think.
If you're Ferrari in your current situation, you're not going to salvage this year's car. The best you can really do is build the best engine you can when you're allowed to upgrade it at the end of this season and then the end of next season, and build the best 2022 car you can and see what happens.
Oh boy, yeah, not ideal at all. Also, there is a breaking news story I want to address real quick that's come from the BBC. And this does have an effect on MotoGP, we'll get to in a minute. Travellers returning to England from Spain will have to quarantine for 14 days from Sunday morning. So anybody based in England that's out there in, shall we say, Jerez, or maybe next week, given the World Superbikes race at Jerez, their restarted season or continuing season that continues next week at Jerez is also going to be mad problematic. I have
a feeling they use the term tourist specifically for a reason, because people who enter the country for business purposes might be exempt.
They say the headline said travelers. It's a breaking news story. If anything more comes up in the course of this recording, I'll keep the page refreshed just in case. The UK generally has given elite athletes a pass on this or an exemption on this, but as Simon Patterson quickly points out on Twitter, who writes for The Redacted, there obviously isn't 14 days between Sunday night and Monday morning and next Wednesday when everyone needs to leave for Brno. So what now for the Brits in the paddock, and will other countries follow suit?
Yeah, and it says that Spain's been added to England's quarantine list, so that means the existing list of countries, so I assume the same exemptions apply to Spain like all the other countries on that list.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that one if there's any exemptions mentioned, because this is the UK. There's bound to be exemptions. We're almost certain, because we Brits can't put together a law to save our fucking lives. Also, quick extra note on the state of the calendar right now as well. There will be no races in North America this year. Canada.
Now in the Americas period.
In the Americas period. I was trying to narrow it down, but yeah, there'll be no racing in the Americas on the F1 calendar.
As far as the U.S. side of it goes, well, that was kind of just waiting for the other shoe to drop, because we did not handle this well.
Ditto in Brazil, where the guy running the country has had it multiple times, and he just keeps getting it, and the things he had to say about people who wear masks, I will not repeat.
Yeah, not very kind statements to say the least. So yeah, that pretty much means Canada, the United States, Mexico, and Brazil are all off the table. Expect a cancellation we already had the cancellation for the circuit in the Americas in MotoGP last week. There'll probably be another one for Argentina, which was another potential reserve round they could have added on later on. They got to make a hard decision on this by next week. This time next week, actually, July 31st. Expect a cancellation for Argentina as well in the coming days, because if F1's not racing in the Americas, you can forget about MotoGP doing that, whose paddock is even more spaced out and problematic. So no races in the Americas in Formula 1 this year. It's looking more and more like, after we're done with Europe, we're probably going to go to the Gulf. There's a lot of rumours there might still be a race in Malaysia. At Sepang potentially coming back on the calendar for a while.
Sepang back, baby, please.
Might be Sepang back. They might have the Vietnam Grand Prix after all, because they were one of the handful of places that actually handled this well. Don't know if they want to drag everybody else's bullshit into their own place.
Right. No, they can run that race on one condition: they blow up that track and build it.
All over.
New track, please.
Yeah, F1 2020.
I watched King drive on that track, and I was offended at the sight of some of those.
It looks evil.
It is truly an awful circuit. I don't normally denounce a new track before it's even run. It's a pile of dog shit. It really is.
It makes you
combine the worst of Monaco with the worst of Sochi, and somehow the baby that came out mutated to grow parts of Baku as well.
Which, you know what this means. We talk all this shit now, and if we have the race this year, it's going to be a banger.
No!
Because nothing makes sense in 2020.
Nothing. Vietnam handled this quite well. Just cancel it and move it to Thailand, or race it in the Chang circuit instead.
I'd love to see it.
I'd take it.
I joke. It's looking like it's going to be we might get a race in Sepang. That's been heavily rumoured. But it's looking like 2 races in Bahrain and then Abu Dhabi to finish. Rumour has it the week of Christmas. December 20th is when this season might end. Yeah. Which, oh boy.
Yeah.
I don't
you got me dirty air for Christmas. Thank you.
Turbulence.
This is gonna hit different than when the NBA plays on Christmas, man.
They're
not the same. And look,
their own restart right now.
Well, look, dudes have already there's already been pieces come out about how burned out team personnel are gonna be.
Yep.
Already.
This was already a problem. This was a problem before COVID went global.
Yeah,
we talked about it at length on this show.
Indeed. Should I talk about some of the junior races real quick?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Dre, talk about your new mans.
Oh boy.
I can't take full credit for my mans on this one because I have to defer to Ryan King on this one, who even on this very podcast was talking about how good this man was going to be a year ago. And this was the coming out party for one Robert Schwartzman. My God. He was on the inverse strategy in the feature race in Formula 2 in Hungary. And he had to start on the harder compound tyre, switched to the softer compound tyre later on in the race. Now, I love that he lucked into what would end up being the winning strategy, but he absolutely decimated the field. Like, I'd argue the most impressive part of this performance was not him being 4 or 5 seconds a lap quicker on the soft compound tyre. It was the fact that his older hard tyres, who were a lot older than the guys who had already come in and switched, he was matching their pace on much older tyres for laps at a time.
That
was unbelievable.
The tires were very weird this weekend.
The
hard tires just really didn't. Like, you'd see them actually chunking and shedding rubber, but they wouldn't lose that much pace.
It's like the tires hit the cliff so damn soon in some of these races.
Yeah,
and the soft tires. The soft tires were like the 2013 Pirellis.
Yeah, and for people who didn't watch the race, in the feature race, there was a very early safety car, and a lot of people took the opportunity to take their mandated tire change. They started on the softs. They knew they were going to have to pit sooner or later. So they're like, hey, we're 5 laps into this. Let's just pit now, go to the hards, and run the rest of the way.
Yeah.
But
I think we had back-to-back safety cars, too, because I know the Trident boys, Nissany and Sato, they hit each other. We go back to racing. Giotto shot blocks Lundgaard. Lundgaard rejoins the track in front of Armstrong, who then bounces off of Markelov, who then goes nose first in the tire barriers. And then, and only then, do we have a race that settles in. It looks like Mick Schumacher's about to pick up that first win until Schwartzman runs him down on the alternate strategy and picks up his second feature win of the season.
I think everyone on the alternate strategy was apocalyptically fast to end the race. I think Mazepin was on the same strategy as Schwartzman. He cut through the field. He ended up second.
How about that?
Schwartzman got up to second on the fresh tires. I'm like, okay, Mick has a decent gap. Can he turn up the pace and hold him back? And it was a lap. It was a second and some change. It was a second and some change. A sector that Schwartzman was speaking out of him. It was ridiculous. And Mazepin was the same way.
Mazepin deserves some love because he had a tough year last year. This was his best race in Formula 2 so far.
Yeah, great drive from him as well in the background. I just can't get over it. Everybody immediately crapped themselves. Like when Schwartzman went into pits, comes out and immediately locks up his new softs into the first braking zone at turn 1 on pit exit. And I'm like, no!
Didn't we watch this race and we were just like going back and forth seeing which Prima driver was on the shittier strategy?
Yeah.
Like, why would they leave Mick Schumacher out in the soft tires this long? Why would they leave Schwartzman on the medium tires so long?
Yeah, because I thought they were going to do the same strategy with Mick, and he had a kind of weird middle-of-the-road strategy, which did work out for him, but obviously not as well as Schwartzman's. It was a great drive from Schwartzman.
It was a rarely seen ultra beat him down from Robert Schwartzman. He will go on to win that race, I think, by 18 seconds. Which is just laughable when you consider he was on the alternate strategy. It was
15.6, but that's still an impressive margin.
He was like 6 or 7 seconds behind when he got into second place. It's like he turned the AI down to fucking 40.
Like, it was it was colossal. It was an unholy clobbering, as one John Boys would say. Like I said on Twitter, I've seen all I need to see. Get this man an F1 seat immediately.
No.
Put him in a Ferrari-powered car this year.
No. Mick has the right idea. Mick has the right idea with the Ferrari Junior Academy, is to be good, prove that you've got something, but be consistently outshined by one of them every weekend. That way you don't get picked to go in the meat grinder.
Yeah. Let Robert take one for the team first.
Diabolical. I love it.
There's that ruthless Schumacher gene.
Yeah. He sort of was like, I'm just going to go for this toilet and have a piss. Robert, you take the seat. Honestly, you'll be fine. Crush it at Alfa Romeo. It'll be great. What's the worst that could possibly happen? Talking about the sprint real quick as well. Even the sprint race was crazy. Like, we had
the race where you're not supposed to pit, but the tire drop off was so bad that people pitted anyways.
Callum Island was 4 tenths away from winning on a one-stopper.
In the sprint race. We almost had another Leclerc moment right there. There's the pit stop sprint race win, the ultimate win in the Formula 2 calendar. We love those here. I think Leclerc and Luca Giotto are in that two-man club at the moment.
Yeah.
But,
and Giotto, fair credit to him, it had been a tough season. It had been a tough time in Austria those last 2 weekends. But he got the 4th in the feature. He got the win in the sprint race. It's looking like, hey, maybe coming back for another year wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Year 17 of Luca Giotto, and look at him go.
Is he friends with LeBron James?
Yeah, cool. Like I said, Giotto just clinging on by the length of a cigarette paper and one front straight over Cannamilo. Where if that race was one corner longer, he would have lost.
Oh my god, the chase down on the final lap where Isla's tires are destroyed.
Isla had worn himself to the bone, and he was still like a second a corner faster than Giotto. And
Giotto locked up, had a square tire halfway around the lap. Or no,
he
the
locked
first
into turn one. It was turn one of the final lap. He locked his tires, and that really started the drop off.
There was some mad Eurobeat playing with those two cars because they had nothing left to give.
It's every racing game you've ever played where you're gunning down a guy you know who's faster and you're just running out of road. That's what it was. It was just like
it was Naruto and Sasuke at the end of their fight, and they're just bleeding out, throwing haymakers.
Pretty much, that's what it was. Ilott just barely loses out. MSC, Mick Schumacher on the podium in 3rd to get back-to-back podium finishes. A great weekend for Luca Giotto on that one. He'll take a pair of 3rds for Mick as well. Formula 3, we might be witnessing another star being born here, folks.
Yeah, King with another solid view into the future. The Potato Man cometh.
Yes. Oh man, Theo Pocher, Pomnitzer, gotta win. Though there were some outside circumstances that helped him get there to this one.
Shenanigans.
Right. Alexander Smolyar was a surprise pole winner in qualifying. His race lasts all of a lap before he's tagged by Logan Sargent, who goes on to finish 6th. And that pretty much opens the door for Porsche to dominate, because he did get a bit fortuitous when he won race 2 in Styria last time out.
No.
But this, much more comprehensive.
Right.
And that was part of a weekend that propelled Porsche to 3rd in the standings after going scoreless the first weekend.
Though there were some other incidents in the race, including one involving one Liam Lawson.
Oh boy, folks! When this Red Bull sponsored international F3 car hits 88 miles per hour and suffers a catastrophic Mechachrome engine failure, you're gonna see some serious shit.
That looked like a fucking crankshaft failure. I haven't seen an engine failure like that. Actually, no, that's a lie because I saw the number 7 Acura blow up at Daytona.
Your boys.
A couple big boys in the last month or so.
Do you remember that episode of Top Gear when the gang buys a set of £10,000 Ferraris or like Italian supercars that were terrible, and then Clarkson's Maserati explodes on the side of a motorway? That's what this was.
No, I'm thinking more like when on one of Clarkson's own shows he melted down a Nissan Sunny with a jet turbine.
Yes.
That was this.
That was I think the very first season of Top Gear's reboot. Wow. Yeah. We're deep into our partner references this week, but that thing was on fire. Oh Lord.
We're glad that Lawson's okay after that. That caused a long red flag that broke up the race, but he's okay. Tough weekend for Lawson, though. He and Frederick Vesti had double DNFs this weekend. But I don't think
no longer the bestie.
But King, I don't know if anybody had a tougher time out than the following day than Dutchman Bent Fiscal.
Oh man, to be fair, Fiscal did it to himself.
To a degree, but you also had a bit of rotten luck that really compounded this penalty. But carry on, King.
Bent Fiscal, he had everything locked in. He was, with the speed he had, he was gonna win the second F2 race, though he was in a collision early on in the race, and it was under investigation for a while. Pretty much everyone, including Alex Shakes in commentary booth, pretty much said he's gonna get a penalty for this. He eventually did. He got a 5-second penalty. Realizing what he had to do to get the win, he starts pushing hard. He starts doing moves to try to get around cars as quickly as possible. Including maybe taking a bit of advantage of some runoff area to get around a car. And next thing you know, Bent Fiscal is under investigation again.
This track extension. Well, you would be straight up disqualified if you did that on F1 2015.
Right.
Yeah.
So 2 5-second penalties, which made a 10-second time penalty. There was rumblings he might have been able to beat the 5-second penalty, but he wasn't fast enough to head to the field. And then to make it even worse for Fiscal, late race safety car bunches the field up.
Yeah, literally on the second to last lap, safety car incident happens. Fiscal is swearing over the radio because he was looking for like a solid points finish despite the penalty. But
dude, he was the first car on the road, and he ends up classified 17th.
So initially,
under the safety car.
Yeah. Initially, my immediate thought to do, like, for what Fiscal should do to try to mitigate the penalty was like when the safety car pulls away for the restart to the line for everyone to roll across the finish line. Just wait there, back everyone up, then go, and then and that's what he did. And then when he did that, no, when I did that, when he did that, I realized what was wrong with that. If everyone's going, if he waits and goes, everyone's going at a higher speed. That means everyone's crossing the line more quickly. He should have held everyone up to the line and crossed the finish line as slowly as possible.
Right, because if the cars are traveling slower, it's going to take them more time to cross the start-finish line. If you're going over it at full racing speed, you're all going to be really bunched up. It's the Concertina effect.
Yeah, basically. Like, Fiscal was almost the last car on the lead lap because of it.
Yeah, as a result of his games, he ended up making his penalties so much worse.
It was going to be solid points. He ended up 17th. Poor fella.
How about David Beckman, though?
Beckman.
He had a terrible 2019, comes back last minute, picks up the win. He was good at this level in 2018. So it's good to see him back on form. And while we're, because I want to run down like the points briefly in F2 and F3, but another solid day for Oscar Piastri. So here's the top 5 in F2. Schwartzman on 81 leads, Eilert second on 63, Christian Lundgaard, despite a bagel, 43 points, Mick Schumacher 39 points, and a very cranky Dan Ticktum, still 5th in the points on 38.
What am I supposed to do? I have no grip.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my hands.
How about you shut up and drive, you little
Oscar Piastri.
He's one person who I will say, shut up and drive.
Yeah, please, man. It's better for everybody.
Piastri, 76 points. Sargent on 50. Pourchaire jumping 6 spots to third on 48 points. David Beckman, 47.5. Richard Verschoor, for sure, 45 points to round out the top 5 there. Support races, as usual, being more entertaining, more compelling than the main event itself.
Shocker.
Yeah.
What a shocker, really. Never happened. Right, just before we get out of Dodge, we got to talk a little bit about MotoGP as well, because, oh boy.
Yeah.
We've had a lot go down since, because those that don't know that are watching this live stream now that may not be in our Discord server, we recorded episode 249 back on Wednesday, and unfortunately we were kind of caught short even back then when we recorded that, because a lot has gone down at Jerez since we recorded that episode. So I'll quickly get us up to speed. As mentioned, this is the second race of a double header, the Andalusia GP, to be technical, at Jerez this weekend for MotoGP. Now, I even got caught out making the video about this because I had to insert a second, extra minute on the end because there was a breaking story that Okay, so Marquez, as mentioned on last week's show, 247, which will come out tomorrow. I know it's a bit weird playing catch-up on these episodes, but you'll get the full gist. Yeah. Anyway, Marquez, as mentioned, binned it in the first race in Jerez for the second time. He put a wheel on the paint, got yeeted into the gravel, broke his arm, broke his humerus on his arm. He gets lucky. There's no nerve damage in the arm break. He has the operation on Tuesday, was a complete success. And then we find out on Wednesday afternoon that Marquez is going to fly back to Jerez with the aim to try and participate in the weekend, and everybody's jaws collectively hit the deck. Because a week ago we were talking about this could be career impacting, this could be a season ender, this could be several missed rounds, especially in a condensed calendar.
And then it slowly kept coming further in, and then it seemed like everyone settled okay, he'll be back for Brno.
Yeah, Brno, which
comes out that, wait, he's on a plane back to Jerez.
What?
He's going to run this race.
Repsol Honda posts a picture of them unpacking the number 93 RC213V.
Yeah, they actually shout out to Alex Marquez's pit crew that managed to completely rebuild Marquez's side of the garage in the space of an hour. Impressive stuff, I have to say. It's on Repsol Honda's Twitter account if you want to see it. Very, very cool to see. But yeah, Marquez was flying back to Jerez on Thursday. He has to go in and do a fitness test with the MotoGP doctors, which we'll get into in a little bit. But let's not forget, he wasn't the only injured man going into this weekend. There was 3 of them. Crutchlow had broken his scapula, and that had to be fixed. He also was diagnosed with concussion-type symptoms, I should say. Sorry. And Alex Rins had an enormous crash in qualifying on the Saturday, had broken and dislocated his collarbone, that had to be surgically reattached. Shoulder, exactly. Thank you very much, Cam. All 3 passed the fitness test, and everybody was like, huh? Honestly, I love how the culture of the sport suddenly went, oh, now we're asking questions about MotoGP's medical exams.
Yeah.
Because this is not a new thing.
Not when Jorge Lorenzo breaks his collarbone in a hellacious high side, gets it plated in his back, a couple days later.
Oh, God.
It's like are you guys new here? I feel like these guys are new here. And yeah, all 3 were declared fit to ride, and a lot of people ask question marks about the doctors. A lot of people got the tinfoil hats ready. I will say this, as I know this is a fact: the circuit hires the doctors. It is not Dorna's decision to decide who races and who doesn't, because people I did see come out with this theory. It is complete bullshit. The circuit themselves are the ones that hire the doctors for a Grand Prix weekend. They have nothing to do with Dorna, and each doctor has an FIM license to be able to obviously diagnose and treat athletes that are at the circuit. It has nothing to do with Dorna. put your tinfoil hats away. This is the way it's always been. Now, I'm not saying these doctors are perfect. I made the point on a Dre Brief video 2 years ago talking about the Petrucci, who, by all accounts, seemingly had a concussion, and it seems like the doctor might have missed it. I'm not saying these doctors are perfect. What I am saying is that I think it's a very, very massive can of worms if we start questioning doctor diagnoses or doctor diagnosis of people that are treating to say, oh, they just want these guys to race. Well, in an ideal world, we always want the riders to race. Of course we do. Sport encourages participation in its own right. And I would rather trust a doctor and what they have to say than distrust them and come out with like I'm wearing tinfoil as a paraglider to say like, oh, you know, they just want these guys to get hurt or whatever. They just want all these guys to race, and you know, it's
Then you sound like professional wrestling fans who are just like, oh, they won't clear this guy to wrestle because they don't want them to wrestle for some other company.
There's no silly fucking conspiracy.
Right.
Especially when, you know, it is people's actual lives at stake.
Right. Yeah. Like, it's... I had multiple people on Twitter come at me for that one. People I don't even know were like, oh, you know, he's come back too quick from this injury. Yeah, you can have that opinion, but if a doctor's deemed him fit to ride, I'm taking that doctor's word at face value. I'm not going to the doctor's surgery down my road 3 days' time claiming I've got a flu. And I'm going to say, you know what? I'm not going to believe him. I'm going to go out and live a normal life right now and completely ignore his opinion. You don't do that. You trust the professionals, okay?
Funny thing about that, Dre.
I said the flu on purpose. I'm sure you can see where I'm getting at with that. But look, I know, I do agree in some cases that I would love to know a bit more full disclosure about what they're testing during these medical exams, because more information is always useful. But I've always said it's going to be impossible to replicate the conditions of riding a 200-mile-an-hour motorcycle in a doctor's office. You've got to try and basically, you know, you've got to understand that that's going to be an impossible thing to replicate, and the doctor can only do so much. And even if they've been deemed fit to ride, if a rider can't ride, they will know about it.
All you can really have is, you know, a basic fitness stress test on the arm. And as you said, it's not replicating a damn near enough 300 horsepower, 200 mile per hour motorcycle, you know, back wheel in the air flying into a corner.
Right. It's as Sasha points out in the chat, they're more like guidelines than anything else, and we have to respect that. And I am not willing to open Pandora's box on questioning what doctors have got to say.
Yeah, it feels like while Mark passed all the guidelines on allowing someone to ride, like obviously the guidelines are a bit loose, and there's a lot of things that go into riding a motorcycle that mainly involve personal comfort. And while Mark passed the guidelines, once he actually got fit, was physically on the bike, realized, hey, I'm not ready.
Yeah, well, it took a bit. Marquez did get back on the bike, was lapping reasonably, you know, considering he has a broken fucking arm.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, let's not understate the seriousness of this. He was, I think, within a second on one lap pace, about half a second off on race pace. And then, you know, the 2020 Honda, which we'll get to in a minute, is now 3 for 3 on trying to kill its riders this year because it is an unrideable nightmare of a bike. He had a big wobble on a right-hander, and you could see immediately his whole attitude on the bike changed. Yeah. I think he tweaked it beyond where it was. And FP4, you know, lost some pace. Q1, got on the bike, did one lap, and called it.
Yeah,
there's a picture of him in the paddock, and I know we talked about it before we started recording, Dre. His right arm is twice the size of his left arm.
Yeah, I literally joked on Twitter that like his right arm looks like my right thigh after a rooster strip platter. It wasn't great. Marquez has since he was been interviewed. He came out with a statement about the whole process basically, and he talked about the qualifying and all of that. I'll fill in the blanks for you by this quote. He goes, shout out to Valentin Konuski of the Redacted for this one. What I did during all the week is to try and follow my instinct and try to especially understand my body and be honest to my body. And it's what I did. And for example, Monday, if you asked me, I would have said it was impossible to race in Jerez. But then Tuesday, Dr. Xavier Mir, who's pretty much rolled renowned as the MotoGP doctor fixer-upper, did a great job with the surgery, and on Wednesday I was able to do some push-ups. I was able to be at Severa in my town, put on the leather suit, be on the bike, and I said, okay, it's possible. Day after surgery. Then I started to speak with Honda, with the team, and yeah, they were a little bit reluctant. Of course, they wanted to try and save me, but we kind of made a deal that, okay, I will try on Saturday, but I will be really honest to you, and it's what I did. Thursday, the medical check was really tough, and just now I say thanks to Dr. Charter because he was pushing me a lot with the push-ups, with everything, but the power was there, and the muscle was there, and it was working good, and for that reason I tried today. He said in the morning I felt really good. I was able to ride in the 37.7s of a used tyre that was pretty much the same time as last week, he said. Again, that was a pretty competitive time for race trim. Would have probably put him solidly in the points off topic. And then in the afternoon when I started to feel really good, I was able to ride also in a good way, in a good feeling, but then suddenly I stopped in the box, and when I go out again, something changed, I mean immediately. Quote, and it was kind of the inflammation or something. The arm got a little bit bigger. Then I think maybe it pressed a little bit against some nerve, and then I was losing the power on the second run this afternoon in some corners that I didn't expect. And at that point, you need to be honest with your body and understand the situation, and it's what I did. I said straight away to the team what's going on, and I said to them, I will go into qualifying practice 1. If in the first lap I feel a little bit of this feeling, or I have some feeling similar, I will give up, and it's what I did. He said it gives him peace of mind. He said the withdrawal is something that of course I didn't expect, but if I'm here, it's because I was able to ride. But I want to say thanks to Honda and all the doctors and physios because they gave me the chance to follow my passion, to follow my instinct, to follow what my body was asking. And tonight I will sleep in a good way because I tried, it was not possible, and yeah, Bruno will be another race. So that was Marquez after qualifying.
The fact that he even attempted this is
incredible,
extraordinary. He is in all of sports, because I'm not just into motorsports, all kinds of different sports.
Yeah, we're all into the regular sports, regular sports,
right, quote unquote. I have never seen a will to win like Marquez's. And he will have tried his damnedest. But I also with his arm, you look at it, his normal skin color, and then you get to his arm, and it's
Thanos purple. It's Thanos purple.
It's very concerning, and yeah, he had decent pace and was riding amazingly for someone with a broken arm.
Right.
But whether he tweaked something or just the build up as time went on, as laps went on, but the pain was too much. And he talked about once he quit, he got out of that mode mentally, the pain tripled.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said, mind really does matter over the body because, as Cam just alluded to, he said it himself. Once he knew he couldn't ride, the pain was 3 times worse. And Crutchlow said it himself because let's not forget, Crutchlow is racing this weekend with a broken scalpioid, and he said himself, adrenaline is the best painkiller. It always has been. And
that sounds like such a Cal Crutchlow thing to say, though. In general,
It is precisely a Cal Crutchlow statement, and he actually qualified in 13th place. He was only a 10th away from making Q2, which would have been incredible, given that, again, that was one of the most difficult...
It's one of the worst injuries you can have as a MotoGP rider.
Yeah, every bike rider you can think of has had scapular problems in their career at some point. Neil Watson on more commentary.
And, looking back, the end of 2018, at the end of his Ducati stint, Jorge Lorenzo had a very similar injury, and you can argue that that kind of triggered the events that, however you view his retirement, caused his retirement.
Right.
That series of injuries began with a scaphoid injury.
Indeed. Yeah, exactly. So, in case you were wondering already as well, regarding the official results, Fabio Quartararo will be starting tomorrow's race from pole position.
I mean, why should we run down the qualifying results? We're gonna still have to review the race on the next episode.
I mentioned the 2020 Honda is 3 for 3. Alex Marquez had a hellacious incident of his own where his right arm got caught in the bike as he went down.
Alberto. Hey, Alberto Puig. Are you hoping for
on me? Put the camera on me.
Uh-oh.
What the hell was that? You have Alberto in the media saying, "Well, Mark didn't win those championships. We won those championships."
David Emmett calling him to task on Maine.
Now, if you remember, and we've mentioned it before on this podcast, is Alberto trying to recreate 2003, where a Honda executive pissed off Valentino Rossi, at the time Honda's crown jewel, so bad that he walked and then proceeded to rain championships on Honda's head?
I think we should save this for the race review, because we're going over 2 hours, and we thought it was going to be a short.
In summary, Alberto Puig is a clown. That's all you need to know.
Listen to episode 251 for our full thoughts on the race, which if you're watching us now, you should go watch. Watch it on BT Sport, NBCSN, MotoGP Video Pass, DAZN, wherever you get your MotoGP, it's going to be a good time.
Indeed, and
get well soon, Mark.
Indeed, get well soon, because he's the most entertaining man in all of motorsport, and the sport is better when he is up the damn front. I don't care what anyone says to me. Get well soon, Mark. We need you back. Maybe not that quick, but
give it a race. Give it a race, man.
And that'll just about do it for 250 episode of Motorsport 101, which is just absolutely bloody ridiculous, to say the least. Special thanks to everyone that's stuck around and that's still watching right now. Once again, we kept it to traditional Motorsport 101 length of an hour, in which case it's 2. My bad. It wouldn't be a Motorsport 101 without us grinding over on time, because that's what we do here.
That's fine. It's been good. The vibes have been good. Thank you all for watching. Please feel free to watch, subscribe, youtube.com/Motorsport101. Subscribe to the podcast, follow all of us on social media. Website's motorsport101.com.
Indeed. Just want to say special thanks to everyone that's been watching. Special thanks to everyone that's been listening, for allowing us into your homes, and just be for pokey motorsport fans from all walks of life that want to be entertained and have a platform to do cool shit. The only regret is that we didn't use this platform sooner to talk about some of the bigger things, and even then we have, I think, more than a lot of average places have done so. And we will continue to do so, because we want this show and we want this podcast to be as inclusive and as welcoming a spot as possible, because goddamn, this industry needs it right now, and to say the least. And it's going to get harder before it gets better, but we've already seen a couple of steps in the right direction, and hopefully that will continue. Special thanks to everyone that backs us on Patreon in particular. You, the guys that keep the whole gravy train rolling. The podcast is self-sufficient thanks to all you guys. Keeps the website afloat, keeps the SoundCloud afloat. The fact that you guys think you're worth giving us money every month to listen to us a little bit earlier, or we're just worth the support is an incredible gesture. It's one thing to watch, it's another thing when you want to donate part of your checks towards us, which is just crazy. So special thanks to everyone on Patreon that backs us financially, even if it was only for a month, even if you dropped off in a very understanding and challenging time in the world. Completely understand, and thank you for your continued support. It really does mean the world. Special thanks to everyone that's promoted the crap out of us in the last month, because we've been very, very fortunate to have been picked up by some great people. Special thanks to Stuart at Chain Bear, who promoted the crap out of us to a point that made me tear up in my own friggin' workplace when I couldn't believe he featured one of my videos on his community tab. That was a complete fucking shock. And I never would have anticipated something like that happening. On a personal level, over 700 people have followed me in the last 2 weeks, which is just absolutely insane. I wish it was for better reasons. I wish it was for brighter reasons. But your support is still absolutely appreciated, and I'm incredibly grateful for everyone that's chipped in to follow me. If you're following me, please follow King. Please, and keep the momentum going. I'm not the only black guy here by any stretch, and let's be honest, we've been here for a while. Better late than never as far as I'm concerned, but still, thanks to everyone that's chipped in where that's concerned. Thanks to Chain Bear, thanks to Jenny Gow as well. Let's just say I'm going to be somewhere very, very special in the next couple of days. I can't quite tell you what just yet, but I will tell you on Monday night. So,
by the time you listen to this, if you're listening on the podcast, you will know. But if you're watching us now on Saturday, mystery.
Stay tuned. I do not exaggerate when I say this. It is the biggest media opportunity of my entire life. And this one will take some topping. That's all I will say for now. So special thanks to them. Special thanks to the guys at WTF1, to Tommy as well. He's been plugging the crap out of our work as well, and me as well in particular. They've all chipped in. Again, the recognition is incredible. We hope you guys stick around, to say the least. I think we're all right at this hot motorsport thing as well. Of course, special thanks to Lewis over at Bike Live as well, who's always helped us out with the bike stuff as well, who's edited on occasion, and like I said, living the dream out there in Spain, and I couldn't be prouder of him. He's a part of our history, of course, as well as our co-host Adam Johnson, to Katie Fairman, to Zoe Hamilton, Scott Woodwiss, and there's a bunch more like I can't even name right now. Hazel Southwell, and
Hazel's been on the show. Of course, our reliable super subs, Chris and Zoe,
Elizabeth Blackstock,
Remy Connors. They've all been doing. We all love you all very much. We appreciate y'all for being on our platform.
Thank you. And yeah, as I said before, I couldn't be prouder of what we've built. And hopefully this will be the start of something bigger, because the last month has been absolutely insane, and hopefully that momentum will keep on rolling, and hopefully we can do more and more with this platform, because this 250th recording, the partial rebrand, you can call it, and it's been incredible, and I'm very, very lucky I get to share this platform with three incredibly talented broadcasters in their own right, and people that I've come to know as incredibly dear friends that I would do anything for. And the brightest joy when I'm not working a 40-hour week in a bookies is being able to sit down and talk motorsport for a couple of hours with three of my best mates, and I couldn't ask for anything more than that. So thank you all. And of course, one more time, thanks to every one of you, the guys that listen and enjoy us. Like, I don't know how we do it sometimes, but We do. You guys are the best audience I could ever wish to have. Even now, it's gotten a bit bigger and a bit bloated around the edges. It's still, it's still pretty awesome. And thank you all so much for your continued support. And here's to the next 250, because that makes 500. And may the good Lord, cheers. I'm going to be like, I would say like. I would say like that's going to be like years down the road, but it's probably going to be like this time next year, given the amount of shit we've pumped out in the last few weeks. But a toast in my empty water glass. Well, there's a little bit of water left in here. A toast to everyone at Motorsport 101. Thank you all so much for listening, for watching, for however you invite us into your homes, the interactions, you name it. As I mentioned before, you guys are the best audience we can ask for. Love you guys from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you very much. We'll see you back sometime next week for episode 251.
Yeah.
All